This is an introduction to the Sempare Template Engine. This is an open source project which is available on GitHub via the link provided. My name is Conrad Vermeulen. I am a technical director, architect and developer, and the author of the Sempare Template Engine. So I'll be giving you the talk today. The agenda for today is to look at what a template engine is. We'll also be looking at what other template engines are available in other languages as well as in Delphi. Then we'll look at some of the features of the Sempare Template Engine, dive into some of them via demos. I'll then give a quick description as to how it all works. Lastly, I'll just cover the Sempare Template Engine license and conclude. So what is a template engine? It is a software component used in development to dynamically generate text. By providing a separation of concerns between presentation layer, business logic, and data, the templates provide the presentation layer, and our business logic is responsible for fetching the data, and the template engine itself then merges the data with the various placeholders that exist within the template. And that's really all there is to it. So as you can see, other languages also have template engines, so this is not a new concept. So in JavaScript there's like EJS, handlebars, Python, popular Ginger 2, PHP, there's Smarty, Ruby has ERB, C#, Razor, Spark, Java is JSP, Timeleaf, Velocity, etc. Golang has built-in HTML templates, text template, and so on. When it comes to Delphi, so I'm obviously going to be talking about the Sempare Template Engine, which is something that I built because Delphi, at the time when I wrote this, didn't have a very extensive and complete templating system. So that was the objective when I started writing it. But, there are others. So dMoustache, which is a Delphi version of the Moustache project, which is a logicless templating system. Doesn't have many features, but it is very compact. There's Razor, which is a prototype was built by Margaret Cantor a few years ago, which is based off Razor from Microsoft. And then I'm also aware of something that was based off a PHP Smarty clone and a Ruby liquid templating engine. So let's cover some of the features of the Sempare Template Engine. So when I first started building the template engine, what I wanted to have was Pascal-like syntax, so it would be easy for any Pascal developer to understand how the template engine works, or how some of the constructs within the template grammar actually work. So we have support for normal logic statements like if, else, for, while, etc. There is a support for layouts using the extends and block statements. So you can have a master layout. So like as in with a web page, you might have a header and a footer and then a body in the middle. And then a block statement is a way in which you can then target those various sections that you're interested in. We have support for calling functions and methods on objects. Using RTTI, we're able to extract data from almost any data type, and also if there are more complex data structures that we need to provide easier access to, there are ways in which we can customize data access. Now, the other key feature is safety. So there's runtime protection, which means that if you've got a loop that loops over a number of elements or over a count of some sort, you can make sure that it terminates and doesn't run indefinitely. That's especially useful for websites. There's also automatic HTML encoding. Now we know one of the things that often happens is people are trying to attack websites, and they do all kinds of injections with JavaScript and so. When we have HTML enabled by the template engine, it will automatically escape HTML tags, so things like JavaScript will not actually be executed unless you actually explicitly wanted to. There's customization in many different ways, such as the actual script tags such as the less than percent greater than. Those can be customized with curly braces if you like. That is to give you flexibility in terms of, let's say you're working in JavaScript or on HTML. There might be something in the JavaScript and HTML world that might require different tags to be used in the page, so we can actually make sure that there's no conflicts. As I alluded to above, we can add custom functions. So that's a really great extension mechanism in terms of either formatting data more optimally, or if you need to actually perform custom logic on some data when you need it to be presented. Online we also have excellent reference to the documentation, so I will provide a quick browse through some of that now. And there are many other features which I will show you shortly. I'd like to give you a quick overview of the web page on GitHub. So here you can see the URL at the top here. Here's a little section where you can start the project, so please do just press the button and that will increase the count. That gives me a good indication of who's actually interested in using the project. If we scroll down, we'll be able to see that there's a README, which is a markdown format. So you can click on any of these links and it'll take you to more detailed information. So we'll cover things such as how to get installed using various backend managers. And here we actually have the template language, so this is quite useful. When it comes to optimizing your utilization of multiple templates, you might want to use the built-in template registry, and then there's also tricks for customizing. So if we just have a quick look at statements, we'll see different flow control statements that are available. There are all kinds of other features for how to manage templates and other keywords for doing other kinds of processing. You can customize functions, as I mentioned. So this is where you can add your own functions to do specific types of operations. And there are also all kinds of configuration options which are related to like text encoding, HTML encoding, setting the runtime, the max runtime, how you're changing the start and end script tokens. And yeah, I won't go into all of these until we look at some of the demos. Looking at the RAD Studio IDE, I just want to give you a quick overview as to how you can easily install the template engine. The easiest being to go to the Get It package manager. So you just click on Get It, and at the top you can just say Sempare, and just make sure you've got the appropriate filtering on. So I've just got filter all, filter by name, and categories all. And then here you can actually just select that and press install. This is a little bit of, this isn't the latest version. A new version will be out soon. Now that we've downloaded the Sempare Template Engine, I've opened the group project. Now inside that we have a number of other projects. So we've got the main package file, we've got the unit tests, there's a web broker, standalone example, there's a tool for generating RC files based off resources in a directory structure, and we've got the Playground app. So I'm going to quickly just start the Playground app and illustrate some of the language features of the template engine. So the Playground app consists of 4 parts. In the top left, we've got a little placeholder for variables, so key value pairs. So this is just string values, whereas if we were working in a normal app, we'd be able to reference classes and records and pretty much anything. Over here, we've got some specific options for the template engine itself. These things are, or these options are normally stored in what is known as a context. So if you need to provide specific configuration to the template engine, you create a new context, and then you set the various settings and you pass that into the template engine as well. The bottom left hand side, we have a little place where we can enter text. So this is a template, so this is where we'll be playing now. We've got another tab where we can actually see the parsed version of the template, and on the right hand side we can see raw text as well as a web browser. So let me just clear this quickly and start with a clean version. So I'm going to say over here name, and I'm going to just say dev days. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. So let me just have it here. Let's say year 2024. Let's make another random variable and we call it count. And let's say that's 10. Okay, so let's say welcome to percentage name percentage, and we can say and let's just do a slash b and b. We'll pretend this is HTML, and let's say evaluate. So there, welcome to Dev Days 2024. So this is a very nice simple template where it's literally just doing substitution of these variables. Now, as I mentioned, you might be working with HTML where maybe you don't want to actually use these tokens and you want to actually use something else. So you can actually change that behavior. So let's say we want to use the curly braces rather. So all we do here now is we change the tokens for the script tags. So if we were to say that now, well done, there we go, that works. Now let's explore some of the flow control statements. So I can say something like if year equals 2024. Now what's going to take place is, this isn't really going to work. Okay, so this is 2024, there we go. So it was important to actually make sure that for this comparison that this thing was actually a integer value. And that's mainly because over here I'm actually passing a string through. And otherwise we can say else this is not, this is whatever here. Control to say not 2024. So if I was to go and change it up here, 2023. So there it says it's not 2024. Further, what else we can do is we can have for loops. Now that might look like there's lots of new lines, so we can just say ignore NL. So there we've got a nice condensed line over there, and very similar as to what I showed you before. Is if we wanted to have conditional statements, if let's say I bigger than 1. So there we go. So we can have commas and stuff in between. So we've got a while construct. You can also use continues and breaks within these within this. So let's say if I bigger than 5, yeah. So it's gone through, it's done the loop, and we've hit the terminating condition over there. Let me also show how we can deal with things like HTML escaping. I think this is actually a really good, so let's say some user input message, and we'll just say message. Now if someone was to go and start saying something like script alert, oops. Okay, so there we've got this thing coming through as hello world. So if we were to make sure that it's actually in HTML mode, you can see it actually gets encoded correctly as HTML. So it's quite important that when actually working with HTML and we're wanting to render stuff, ensure that the use HTML option is set, because that way it means users are safeguarded against all kinds of injection attacks that might take place. Next, I want to show you how we can actually use inline templates. So inline templates are much like any normal template, except they're just defined within the template you're looking at. So let's have a quick look. I'm just going to turn off this HTML. Go away. Just so it's not so bright. I'm going to just save us on a lot of errors while I'm typing. So we can just say template, and let's call it a input. And within this, I'm going to just say, okay, I'm going to have a label, and I'm going to have an input, and it's going to have an ID potentially, and that will be an ID, and we might have a default value. Actually, let me just put that in quotes. And what else can we do? Yeah, I think that should be it. Okay, so what we want to do is let's use this template. So to use it, all we have to say is include our template, and now we can pass in some parameters. So let's say we've got an ID being a name, and we can say our label is a display name, and we can say default is display name, something like that. And now let's see if we evaluate this. No, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of this guy. Yeah, he's a distraction. There we go. So there we go. So that's actually given us display name, and ID equals name, and values equals display name. Now I could enrich that further, where I could say ID is equal to email. What do I put in there? Oh, that's not quite. That's why. And the default is, let's say, Conrad at Sempare. So let's evaluate that. So display name, email. That's all done. So this is where it becomes quite useful if you want to do, if you were to create a form or something like that, where you go method equals post, action equals to some path, let's say email or something like that. And maybe one. Now why this is kind of quite nice is that you can basically prototype this, and then once you've actually got the basics working, you can actually move this logic out to or this template into its own file if you want. And potentially this is where someone might want to go and style this specific thing in a different way. And you don't actually have to know about it, and you can just focus on your logic, which is happening down there. Hi, I'm quickly going to show you a small mail merge console application, which allows us to send email to a list of subscribers using some templates. So imagine a scenario where we've got lists of products or different types of newsletters or something like that. So these can be simple CSV files where the first column can be the name, the second one can be the email. Now we also will, in this scenario, have some templates where we have, let's say, an introductory email and maybe a newsletter or blog type template. So for each one, because we're sending an email, there's a subject which goes in the email as well as the body. I'm keeping this very simple, so everything's going to be readable text, and I'm also not going to be sending emails out. I'm just going to be writing stuff to the console. So let's have a look. So in this template, for example, it's just going to say hello user.name, and in the body I'll say dear user.name, welcome to our blog, and unsubscribe via the link config unsubscribe URL. So those are the basic data sets that we'll be working with. Now, in a real application, you might even link that up to a database, but for simplicity, we'll just have it on as files. Now, I've created, as I mentioned, I've made a very simple console application. So if we have a look at the main DPR, what we see here is it includes a whole bunch of units. So the units that we have is, so there's the main one over here, which has a method called run. We then have a model unit. Okay, sorry. So the main unit has a procedure called run. So that's the core entry point. We then have a model where we just keep track of some of the structures that we might be utilizing. And we have, okay, that we don't need anymore. We don't need that. And then we've got some actions. So potentially we might want to send, from a dry run scenario perspective, we will actually log to the console. But if we were to send real emails, we'll use the email log procedure. And yeah, as a exercise for the reader, we would essentially use something like Indie, or and then do some SMTP emailing using. We'll need a little bit more configuration to set that up. But for demonstration purposes of the template engine, we'll just use the console log. So let's just step through it a bit in terms of just showing you some of the moving parts. So the application is going to start off by so from a usage perspective, it will take 3 or 4 parameters. The first parameter is a path to where the templates are, so that's where these parts are over here. The second parameter could be a name, so it could be intro or blog. The third parameter is a name of one of the paths, such as the full path to newsletter subscribers.csv. And then the fourth parameter is an action. So if it's not present, or if it is present and it's email, then it'll actually send the email. And if it's not that, we assume it to be a dry run. So the logic here is saying, okay, if the parameter count is not bigger than 3, and if it's not equal to email, then it's got to basically be a dry run. And in that case, we're going to use the console log method, otherwise or procedure, and otherwise we'll use the email log procedure. So this first bit of the application is just processing these parameters. We then go and load the templates. So these are loaded into this record, which is called email template. Let me just show you what that looks like. So that is of this form, where it's a email template where it has a subject and a body, and it actually has an template, which is which is one of the internal structures which comes from the Sempare Template Engine. So the load method here is very simple in terms of, given the path and the template name, all that it's going to do is read all the text based on that. So there it loads the subject, there it loads the body, and then we actually do a subject is equal to template.parse, and then body is equal to template.parse. So we go and we load those respectively. So let's go back to our main. So that's essentially just loading the templates ready for processing. Then we have load list. So this goes and actually loads the CSV file. So that's actually just above here, where it's a very simple. I probably could have used a t-string list as well. Anyways, here we just read all the lines. We ensure that it's not empty. We split based around a comma, and we then check that there must be a name in the first column and there must be an email in the second column. So if it's neither of those are true, then it just continues looping. Otherwise, it goes and adds the row to our array over here. So we have an array of arrays. Then what we do is we set up some config. So this is some additional information that might be potentially referenced from our template. So I have an unsubscribe URL. So let's have a look over here, again at our structures. So just to remind you, so this T email template actually has references to the actual templates that have been parsed. We then have this config, which is this unsubscribe URL, and then shortly we'll actually start using this T name email, and this T template config, T template data record. We'll be using those when we start calling the console log action. So over here we've defined this L action as a procedure where it takes the list of names, it takes the T email template, and it takes the config. So we pass those in. So let's have a look at what that actually looks like. So here what we're doing is we've got console log, we've got the list of username and email, and we've got the templates and the config. So now what we do is we create this little record, we assign it to this L user. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to be illustrating how we can have records containing records, and the template engine is actually able to dereference them without us actually having to do anything special. So this then in turn calls log, passing this user record and passing this template over there. So finally what I do is I create what we call template data. So there we want to actually have a reference of the user that we're going to be processing for, as well, along with any other configuration. And this is where we now do a little print statement where we log, okay, that's who we're going to send the email to. There's a subject where here we've got an eval where we actually refer to the template, and this is the data that's actually going to be passed to that. And then on this line we actually refer to the body template and we pass the data. Now let's just have a look again at what the templates look like. So in terms of the intro subject.tpl, it says hello user.name. Now let me go and look at the model again. So we're passing in this T template data. There's user, and then that's of type T name email, which is this one over here. So it's going to dereference user.name. In the intro body.tpl, we again say dear user.name, and we have we reference the configuration as well. So here we've got config.unsubscribe URL. Now something to be aware of is that much like Pascal, the templating engine is case insensitive when it comes to dereferencing properties. So you don't have to worry about matching the case or anything. And the nice thing to know is it just knows how to actually dereference these things using the runtime type information. So let's have a quick look as to how this program runs. So let me just put a breakpoint over here. Say F9. There we go. So we step through. Now I've already I've set up this application to have a whole bunch of parameters. So let's just see here. So this first one maps onto, that's the template's path. The template I'm going to load is intro. List path is I'm loading the newsletter subscribers.csv. Let's just double check what I did in the options here. So this is where I've passed all these things. Okay, so that is actually the last option that I actually have provided. So I didn't provide a fourth parameter. So because of that, it's going to use the console log option. So this is now going to pass the path and the intro. So we go in here. So there it's actually gone and read the text for both of those from those two templates. It's actually going to parse them. So now we have this T email template is now set up, and it's in its optimal form in a way. We set up some config, which is literally just going to have this unsubscribe URL. Now I'm going to step through to console log. So here we can actually, if we just inspect, we can see I've got a whole bunch of dummy users. And now for each of those users, we're going to set the user and the email. And when we log through, we set the data. So if we just look at what's in data now, so this config, which is set there, and we've got user that's set over there. And I'm just going to step over this quickly, like such, and then we have a look at the output on the console. So it says to Conrad Vermeulen, subject, hello Conrad Vermeulen. The body is dear Conrad Vermeulen. And then welcome to our blog, and there's the unsubscribe via the link. And let's just step through this again. And so if we look at this again, we'll see once this data, so now it's been set up for the second user, and we can step through that again. And we look there, you can see that it's been nicely formatted and personalized. So I'm not going to step through any of these again. And that's essentially the end of the application. So that just demonstrates very quick personalization for sending out emails or any type of content. Great, I hope you enjoyed that demo. I'll get ready for the next one. Hi, my next demo, I'm going to be showing you how to generate some code using the template engine. Now, again, I've made a very simple console application. I'll start by first showing you the templates for the code we want to generate. So it's a very simple unit. So I'll be passing in a unit name, a class name, and then an array of fields. So a field will have a name and a field type associated with it. And within this class, we will have the various properties, and down below we'll have, in the constructor, we'll actually initialize each of the field values to the default for the respective type. So let's have a quick look as to what we might potentially do. So the model is very simple, as I mentioned from by looking at the template. So we've got a unit which has a unit name. Inside there's a class and an array of fields. I've actually just kept things fairly simple in terms of memory management by just having things as records. That means that the compiler will actually deallocate anything for us automatically. Now, in the run method, let's have a look what we're going to do. So I have a context. So this is where we store the configuration for the template. So as I might have mentioned before, and you'll see from the documentation, the default opening, the start token is less than percentage, and the end token is percentage greater than. But we can actually customize that to some degree by just assigning start token and end token on the context. With that being the only configuration we're going to use here, we are now going to go and load our template. So I'm basically just hard coding it for this demo. So I'm going to just navigate from the Win32 debug folder down to templates/unit TPL. In this example, I'm going to actually load the template explicitly. If we were to look at this line down here, I'll say tfile read all text, and that's template path. And I call the templates.eval. So where I pass the context, let me just show the parameters. So you can pass the context, the template that you want to process, and then the data that's going to be merged into the template. So just above this, I actually have configured some data, which will be for this tunit record. So there's my unit, my class, and then I've added a number of fields. So this is a very simple example. It's going to be very quick to run. So let's just press F9, and we'll see the output in the console window. There you go. So there we can see my unit.pairs. It's my unit interface, my class. Here we've got our different fields. Constructor create. We've got the names mapping onto the name of the fields prefixed with F, and then we've got our constructor. So although this doesn't really do much, it again just shows how we can actually potentially leverage it for a code generation type use case. Anyways, I hope you can be creative and have fun. Bye. Hi, I'm going to now start with a small web reporting demo. So I've just created a new console application. I'm going to be using the Horseweb framework, so that is leveraging this GitHub project. So it's from Hashload, and the project's called Horse. If we scroll down, we can actually see a very minimalistic quick start demo. So here we just have to include the horse unit, and then we've got a T-horse and a .get and a T-horse listen. So let's actually just copy this over and let's get cracking. So we'll just say horse, and over here just put a beta. Now, and let's just test that this is working. Say hello world. So press F9, it compiles. Already new, so that's not good. Let me just close other things down. Try that again. There we go. And let's open the browser. Localhost 80. There we go. Hello world. Okay, so now we're going to quickly add a file. I'm going to add a directory called templates. Okay. And what we can do now over here, let's go back to our main. So here we should be able to, just a second, what we want to do is send the index file. And rack. This is the parent of the template, so we just need to include that. And we also need to pass some data. So I'm going to say alt data, here, alt data, and to start off with, let's just say it's a T array of person. Let's define this as T type. T person equals record first name string. Let's make something fictitious. So let's say amount is an integer. And okay, so the template. What did I get wrong with options? Wrong project. There we go. And okay, so to populate this, let's just say alt data equals to oops. Just auto formatting quickly. Pen, Adam Smith. Okay, we just need a small constructor here quickly. Constructor create. Okay. And oops, okay, so my mistake thing. I want that to be a string, and that must be an integer. Okay, there we go. that must be a T1000. And we don't want that to come over there. Okay, so at the moment, the plan is that we're returning a list of people. Now in our array over here, or in our template, should I say, we want to actually loop through that array. So what we can do is we can just make this a report saying high scores. For person of underscore. Okay, so now you might say, what is this underscore? Underscore is a special variable that refers to the data that was passed into the actual template. So this is something that applies to a template like this, or any sub-template that may be created, or an inline template. Now inside here we'd be able to then go and say, let's actually let's just start with creating a table. And over here what we'll do is we'll say tr, and let's say td, person.name. Okay. So that is the basics. So let's see what happens if we run this now. Okay, fine. There we go. We've got a small table with high scores. Now, what we might want to do is cater for some different behavior. So let's say we want to. Let's have a look at that again. Okay, so let's go and look at this template. Now, let's say there are no people in that's been passed in. Now, you might want to show some sort of message to say, just to show that there are no people. So we could say if then equals 0. And then you can say there are no high scores available. Okay, let's just make sure that it is refreshing. I'm just going to put something over there. So what I'm wanting to just highlight here is I don't actually have to restart the application to actually see the changes in the browser. There we go. So if I was to say bigger than, change that to bigger than, we'll see. Okay, so that's obviously not the logic we want to have like that. Now, what we can actually do is we can actually get all of this error messaging incorporated into the loop as well. So there's some special syntax that's been devised that we can say on begin and else. So we can move all of this into the else section. We can move this table into the on begin section and the close table into the on end section. So that allows us to get rid of this if statement. And so now let's see if that's still working. Or possibly I blew it all up. Oh, I probably blew it up. Yeah, I think I had a syntax that. Let me just start that again. Let's just have a quick look at the syntax for the for statement. Statement for, there we go. So we are wanting to, here we go. So it's on begin, on end, and on empty. Okay, I made a mistake there. So that should be empty. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, and what we can do now is, let's just see if we go and look at the code. If we were to comment out those sections there, yeah, so we can actually see that this template is actually working perfectly. Now, let's assume you want to actually get rid of using the underscore. Maybe you find that that's not as readable as you'd like it to be. The way you can work around that is, we could call this, let's call it T template data equals record, and we could say high scores, and we just move all of that, let's say, into that structure there. Now what we do over here is we get rid of this, and we can say L data dot high scores is equal to now within my index, because we've got this new high scores, that means all we have to do is actually change this to be higher scores. Now, as I might have mentioned in some of the previous demos, there's no case sensitivity. Now, because I've actually changed the code here, I do need to actually restart it for the templates to actually pick up on what's going on. So let's just rerun that, and there we go. So this is a very quick way in which we can actually get the template engine to actually go and resolve the context. Now, you might be wondering, well, how does this magically know to go and actually load that index.tpl? So there's a bit of a convention that's actually embedded in the template registry. So the template registry will, in debug mode, will default to looking for a templates folder 2 down from where the application is actually running. So we know that when we create a normal default application, that it's going to actually be running under 132 debug. So what will happen is it will actually assume that there's potentially a directory 2 levels down. Now it will also actually look at this at the top level as well. So let's just see if we just add another one over at this level here. Folder templates. Let me just add that. We call this alternative. Okay, I might have to just restart and just double check. There we go. Yeah, so we can see what has happened is it is actually picking up on this one now, rather than the one at that level. But what's nice to know is that, you know, you've got the choice, at least, as to where you want to have your templates during development, and then you can choose to actually move them into the build directory when you're ready for deployment. Let's also have a look. Now we have okay. Now this template type is actually the main entry point for interacting with the Sempare Template Engine. So if we just go and have a quick look at it, we will be able to see that there's many different methods for evaluating. So there's all kinds of overloads where you can pass streams, where you can pass variables, including context and context, which was passing configuration through. So all of the methods that start with resolve actually are mapping onto the T template registry. The T template registry, if we have a quick look at him, he is defined as with quite a number of properties on them, where if we go and have a look at what some of the properties, so there's contextual information, which is specific to the template registry. So we assume that once you start leveraging the template registry, the configuration is going to be centralized and consistent. There are some, if you've got different, if you're trying to load templates from files or from the resources in the application, or a combination of both, you can actually make your own name resolvers, which actually map the name that you might reference when you say include template to the actual file name, or the resource inside. Template file ext is obviously would by default be .tpl. Load strategy. So load strategy allows you to define how you're actually going to load your various templates. So it can be a load resource, load file, or load custom. So load resource and load file are supported by default, and load custom allows you to create your own loading mechanism if you so desire. So you could actually go and load a template from a database or from a website or web service, etc. Refresh interval. So that is if we're in debug mode. So these two, automatic refresh and refresh interval, allow us to actually control how frequent the templates are being reloaded. And custom template loader. So that's obviously the anonymous method, which allows us to, if we specify a custom load strategy, we can provide a mechanism to load our templates the way we want them. And then we also have some methods that can help with debugging. So we can have an exception logger and a defined logger. Okay, so that's all for this demo. I hope that this was useful, and yeah, please do send any questions if you have any more. Thank you. Anyway, I just want to give a quick example of layouts as well as the use of custom functions within the web reporting demo. So let's start with adding a custom layout. So this is really simple in terms of what we'll do is we'll just go to the templates folder, and we'll just create a new file here, call it layout.tpl. Now within the project, I'll just add that layout file quickly. Okay, so here what we'll do is, let's say we just create an HTML section, and we'll have a header, and we'll have a body. Now what we can do here is we can say, let's double check something. Okay, we're using that syntax. So this becomes a placeholder for header content, and then this becomes a placeholder for body content. And whatever actually exists inside this block at the moment will become the default. So let's say we just said title, this is the reporting demo. And this is placeholder for content. Okay, so we've created this layout file now, but now let's actually try and use it. So we don't have to actually change any code, we just have to update the templates that we are already referencing. So here we can just say extends layout. Okay, now this isn't actually going to do anything right now. All that we should actually end up seeing is the content from the layout. So let's just try and have a look at it. Localhost. Oh, it actually did produce something. Extends layout. Okay. So let's say block body. Let's go here again. I know I'm editing the wrong. I'm not editing the wrong file. Let me just go here quickly. I previously created a templates folder in that directory. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, let's start again. There we go. Okay, so here it's saying line 21 ends was not expected. Oop, what's going on there? Okay. Block. So that ends that. That should be good. Okay. So let me just start again by just getting rid of that one. And I'm going to get rid of this one. We go back layouts.tpl, okay. There we go. I was being that's the same over there. Okay, so sometimes the error messaging can be pretty helpful. Okay, great. This is a place. Okay, so this is exactly what I wanted to show before. So we've within our index.tpl we've actually said extend, but the content is actually being ignored because we haven't actually given it a location to be embedded in. So now let's go and target the body section. Oops. Block body. Okay, and I'm just going to indent that one more time. There we go. Okay. And you see, we can see there's the header that's come through. If we do a view source, view page source, there's the header. That's the default title. So of course, what we can do is if we want to override the header as well, we can do a little header, and we can say title. So high scores for the Div Day 2024 demo. Okay, great. And there we go, the high scores for the div. Okay, brilliant. So that actually shows how the layouts can actually be utilized. So that's very simple. Now, let's say we want to make a custom function. So I'm going to do something really simple here in terms of, I'm going to get rid of these two lines here. I'm going to make a single a single column where I actually just use a function that concatenates these two. Now there's a built-in function to do this, but I want to actually do this in code. So let's just illustrate that. So I go back to our function over here, and what I will do is we need to define a helper class. So call this my web reporting functions, and what we want to have a class function. Let's call it join names. Const a person, and call it string. Okay, and now let's implement this. Oh, that's why. Person. Oops. There we go. And now within the context for the template registry, what we do is we say resolver dot, and now we should be able to find a context functions, add functions, and we just simply add that class. So using the runtime type information, this will now go and actually resolve all of the methods that are class functions and static, and actually allow the template engine to actually call those as well. So now in our template, let's go over here, and we can just say let's join names on person. We get rid of this column. Okay, and let's run that again. There we go. there we are. You can actually see that the names are joined. Let's just say view page source. You see there's only one column now. So that was the quick and dirty on those two features. Anyways, that's all for now, and let's move on to some other demos. Okay, bye. In this next demo, I'm going to show you a simple invoicing system. I've already written it, so I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough. I'll first start off by running it, and then we'll actually have a look at some of the code. So to start off with, it's got a little section here where it can list invoices. It's not fully complete, so it's not everything is listed. I've got all sections, a settings button, which allows me to actually configure some details about my company. I can press print on invoices, which is something that we'll do as an exercise at some later stage. But to start off with, we'll just add an invoice and view a preview. So this add button allows me to capture some invoice details. So we've got an invoice date. So here we can actually just say, okay, we'll keep today's date. I'll just say EX001, example limited, and one example away somewhere. Okay, so yeah, we can just say, let's just select a fictitious date range, and we can say we worked for 40 hours, hourly rate of 50, and we press go. So now if we just click on this, there we go. Here is our fictitious invoice that's been created, which we can then print off. So if we were to say do print preview, there we go. We can actually send it off to our clients if we want to. Okay, so what's driving all of this? Let's have a quick look at some of the code. So, as I mentioned, I've created this app using FMX. I've got T-Frame Stand, which is a third-party component which is accessible via Getit. This is, I think it's from Andrea Magni, and it allows us to substitute placeholders on a form with different frames. So then I've got my input frame. My input frame essentially has the various labels and various fields on them. There's very little logic actually on the actual page itself. Mostly some helper methods which are just pulling data out and populating data structures. So for example, over here, when we press this add button, the add button itself is going to go and call an onAdd event method, and it will pass through some of the data that we've actually filled in here. We have a list invoices frame. So here we have the print button, we've got a settings button, and the add invoice button. And then we've got a component which actually allows us to list them in a grid format. Now, again, this doesn't have too many things on it, mostly properties. Add item essentially just adds an item one below the other as they appear here, and it would be called via another event somewhere else. Now, if we were to look at populate nodes, okay, so if we look at add item, okay, so here you can actually see the component I'm actually using is a component from TMS, which is the FNC tree view. So I create a new node and I set the various column values with details from the actual invoice, and I also bind that invoice to the node, which may be useful later on. Settings calls the onSettings event, on print calls the on print event, on add calls the on add event. So all of these events are actually wired up in the main form, and we'll look at that later. So then we have the preview. So the preview essentially just has a web browser on it. Again, it's doing very little. We've got a procedure print. So okay, there's exercise for reader for now, and we have an invoice property where we can essentially read or set the invoice that we want to have previewed. Now this is actually the bit where the template engine actually comes to play. So again, as with one of the other examples, we are using the template registry. So it goes and resolves the invoice from invoice TPL, which is actually located in the templates folder. So this is one of the default behaviors of the T template registry. It knows how to actually go and resolve files, resolve templates from files or from resources, and you can configure it to use one, the other, or a combination of both. You can actually also go and use custom sources for templates if you need them. So this is actually going to go and take this. So what we're doing here is we've got a structure called template data. So that's literally just got a field in there called invoice. Our invoice, just so you can see what's in there. So we've got invoice number, invoice date, client address, logo path, company address. So these are the details of my company, and this is the client is who's going to be billed. And then down here we've got some details relating to the amounts and the banking details. And we also have some functions that we will be calling from the template. So back over here, let's just have a look again. So all that we've done is we've populated the invoice record with the invoice that was passed in, and then we pass that through to the template engine to be merged into the invoice template. Let's quickly have a look at the invoice template. So this is very simple vanilla HTML. So we have a header for invoice. We then have a table where this consists of a path to the logo, and then it shows my company details. Then if we scroll down a little bit, we also have a new section here where we have the invoice date and the invoice number. Here we're using one of the built-in functions where we're formatting by, year, month, and date. So if we look at our model, invoice date, where is that? That's a T date. So that's been formatted. And invoice number, that's simply being passed through there. Oops. Where am I? Oh, there we go. So then we show the client who's going to be billed. So we show their name, their address, and we follow up with showing the billing details. So the billing period. So again, we call a built-in function which formats the billing period, the start and end dates. We then use a format function where we can format the double. So we've got hours worked, an hourly rate. And over here we can also see we've got work total, which has parentheses. So that's actually quite important in terms of the template engine does need to know whether or not something is just a variable or a function. So if you add parentheses, it will then you actually giving the hints that it actually has to go and call a method. So there's two methods there, which I showed you before on the model. If we look down the bottom here, we've got work total and total. So just to show you what those are. So those are related to work total should just be hours worked multiplied by the hourly rate, and then total should be the work total plus any expenditure. So let's just double check that. Yeah, so there we can see. So work total is hours worked times hourly rate, and the total is work total plus expenses. And let's go back here. And what's left in the template is just to show the bank details. Yeah. So that's really it. So within this app, I then just defined a few of the frames. I'm not saying that this isn't necessarily best practice or anything, but I just a way I quickly wired this app up so we could demonstrate something working. So here we have the various events, and they start showing the various frames when they need to be shown, and they allow us to pass pass data from one frame to the next as appropriate. So just to show that to you again in action. So when we do this run, make 20. Right. So click on that, and there we can see those details come through. Okay, well, I hope that was a nice way of seeing a different way of actually integrating the template engine into your app. Bye for now. Just quickly covering some of the high-level topics around how the template engine works. So specifically when it comes to processing a template, it's normally a 3-step process. So the first step is parsing of the template. So it's identifying what is just raw text, and then what are the actual statements. And then we have a process around optimizing certain constructs within the template itself. And then lastly, when you actually present data, we actually evaluate the template and then start filling in the placeholders. Now the API normally provides a few different ways in which you can actually do these steps. You can either go and do a parse and evaluate as one step. It's not the most optimal way of doing it, because you can imagine every single time it's got to parse and evaluate, but it can be useful initially in certain circumstances. Later on, what you would do to get the most optimal performance is to first parse, and you store the parsed template reference somewhere, and then when you need to evaluate it, you literally just refer to that parsed template, and you present it with data, and you say evaluate, and then we'll actually run really quickly. Now, when it comes to larger projects, when there are many templates, there's a template registry. So that actually takes care of all the caching of individual templates, and it's thread safe, and basically takes away a lot of the boilerplate that many people might reinvent. Another feature that is hidden behind the scenes, so in debug mode, if you're working with a web server and you've got it mapped onto the file system, we have a little automatic background loading that can take place. So if you're working on a template and you wanting to just see the change refresh automatically, you don't actually have to restart the application. You just change the template, and it will reflect appropriately when you load the template in the browser. And lastly, just a small note on performance. So as I mentioned, parsing is something that can potentially take a little while, and so it's very hard to give you a like-for-like benchmark as to say, okay, this is exactly how fast it is, because it depends on the size of the template and what features are being used. And if you're wanting to compare the performance of, let's say, the Sempare Template Engine with Moustache, or any of the other template engines out there, again, you're going to notice a difference, because not all template engines implement the same number of features, and there's always, the more features you have, there's likely going to be a small penalty that's paid appropriately. But the design of the Sempare Template Engine has been to try to keep it as optimal as possible. Just to cover the Sempare Template Engine licensing, so the Sempare Template Engine is available under the open source GPL license. So this essentially means it's free as in speech, not free as in beer. So free to evaluate, you can look and understand what's going on in the code, and you can incorporate it into other GPL-based projects. Sempare Template Engine commercial license is available as part of the dual license, where a nominal developer fee of $70 gives you access to including it in any of your free or commercial projects. A support fee of $30 is appreciated annually, but that's at your discretion. But any support is appreciated, as that will help me to continue working on updates on the project. Further, there's a site license which is available when there's more than 20 developers. So that's capped. So for large organizations, that might be useful for you. Thank you very much for your attention today, and I hope that the material I presented was of interest to you. Please do contact me if you have any feature requests, or would like some training or tips on optimizing, or other development requests. I'm a consultant and can help you in any way with regards to Delphi and also other programming languages. I apologize, my voice is a little croaky at the moment because I've had a cold for the past week. Anyways, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the training days. Bye. Bye.
You sounded perfect. It's fine. Well, the good news is Conrad is joining us live in the studio. Hello, Conrad. How are you?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Your voice is sounding great. So you've obviously bounced back from the cold, and it wasn't something horrific that made you sound like an old man forever. You actually, I thought your voice sounded fine on the video, but there you go.
Yeah, well, I do have I do cough quite frequently still, but you know.
I thought it was funny. You kept saying, "Okay, and thanks very much," and that's it. And I'm like, "Whoa, what is it?" A couple of false endings. As an ex-DJ, I'm used to records that end weirdly, but actually then carry on. So I've learned to go pause just in case, and then wait and see what happens. I have a countdown timer, so it makes it easier. Okay, so lots of nice comments. By the way, just FYI, Rhino Coatsy said hi from South Africa. So a fellow South Africa.
I think it would probably pronounce Rhino Coetzee. So yes.
Oh, see, you pulled the South African card on me.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, very good. Well, I'm going to call him Rhino because it sounds cool. It sounds like he charges at things. And
no one can pronounce my surname correctly in the UK either. So
oh, go for it. How would you pronounce your last name?
It's Vermeulen.
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 Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry,
but
the
E becomes an F and the EU becomes a sound. Yeah. Anyways, it's Dutch in ancestry. There's lots of people from Belgium, France, Netherlands that typically have it. There are a few famous football players and so on.
Yeah, Marco G from GDK. I've tried. He's tried to teach me how to pronounce his last name, being Dutch with a hard Dutch G, and so I've now resorted to call him Marco G, and he's very nice about it, luckily, because there's no way I can. I need some teeth moving around and stuff like that before I can say close or however it's pronounced. So anyway, lots of love for your stuff. Delphi Moore, which sounds a bit like Demi Moore. I'm guessing it's not her in disguise, but Delphi Moore said, nice one. And Troy said, wow, he codes very fast. So well done there. You've freaked a few people.
I've been doing this for 30 years or so. So you know.
Yeah, me too. Nearly 40 years I worked out the other day. Actually, probably longer than that because I sold my first program when I was 15 years old, but another time for that story. And also, he said, I love watching a master at work. So I'm guessing what he saw he liked. Yeah, a couple of people said, oh, it was too quick. Look, you have to fit a certain amount into the video. Go to the replay. If it's too quick for you, go to the replay, pause it or slow it down. On YouTube, you can actually slow it down to like half speed and things like that as well. It's more important you get the demo in. I thought it was a brilliant demo, Conrad. I really, your little playground app is fantastic as well because I think just the whole polish with it says a lot about the kind of guy you are. A couple of questions. The reason that Zoe asks this question, is there a RAD version for Mac OS, is because they noticed you were using a Mac. And I said, well, no, RAD Studio actually only works on Windows. But do you want to explain what your setup was so that we don't confuse people?
Yes. So I'm essentially I'm running Parallels, which is the equivalent of VMware running on the Mac. So that's basically just Delphi, and also it's ARM based, so it's Windows ARM actually running a Mac M3.
Right.
So Delphi, so I was using Delphi 12.1, and yeah, so the normal Intel binaries, they just run natively as usual inside Windows. When Windows has actually, or Microsoft's done a fantastic job at actually providing internal emulation or recompilation of Intel to ARM instructions.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is actually we get asked that quite a lot. People will say, "Oh, are you going to produce an ARM version of the IDE?" And I keep saying to them, actually, we're looking into these things, but actually we don't need to.
Yeah.
And they're also saying, "Oh, what about native ARM Windows apps?" Well, obviously it's something on our radar as a company, but the reality is that Microsoft is really forced to make their emulation work. Otherwise, nobody's apps are going to work on their hardware that they're trying to, I think the future is probably going to be ARM processors, to be honest.
I think also the although Apple provides Rosetta actually only works on the Mac side of things, so it doesn't actually go into the Windows side of things. So Microsoft is actually doing its own thing, whereas if you've got Intel-based Mac apps, they'll run on Rosetta on doing the same thing, but on the Mac platform.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is just compile your app for Windows, excuse me, and then it will run on a ARM PC running Windows. That's my experience has been. I've not found a single one of my apps that didn't work on an ARM PC, and I believe that we've tested the IDE, and there are a couple of little areas where it's like a little bit shaky, but that's to be expected. And actually, Microsoft then put out patches to fix these things because it's kind of their responsibility. But as you said, you're running parallels. I know there have been in the past issues with RAD Studio running in parallels. That mode where you can turn everything off and it looks like a native app. I know there have been some issues with menus and things like that. And parallel, it's a bug in Parallels, by the way, not in RAD Studio. And Parallels then they're aware of RAD Studio and have issued fixes for it as well. They're a bit standoffish. They don't really,
Well, I think where once Embarcadero embrace, or should I say, once we're building native ARM apps, there is a place for that, because in certain industries, startup time might be quite important, and having translations taking place and that sort of stuff might not be great. Although actually, I'm actually sorry. I'm thinking more in terms of Java type stuff. Actually, it doesn't really apply.
Well, I mean, it actually does apply. The reason is that you're using emulation and an emulation layer in there, and there is an argument to say that it's preferable to have native for whatever that processor is. Right now, it's not too bad, but what's going to happen. It's going to go like that.
Yeah, no,
because the ARM platform will suddenly introduce some kind of features that the Intel platform can't produce. And I mean, we do compile to ARM at the moment, obviously for Android. So it's not like we can't do ARM compilers. Without going into too many details, it's something on our radar, and 64-bit and all those other things are things that are important to us. But anyway, so the answer is Zoe. He didn't have some magical special version of RAD Studio that ran natively on Mac. He was using Parallels, so that's to be expected.
But also just on that note, though, of different platforms, the template engine is pure Pascal, so it will work on it itself will run on any platform. So if you make an Android app or an iOS app, OS X map, etc., you could incorporate templates into those apps as well.
Ah, cool. Well, there you go. So my questions, I kind of talked to you about these before, and people are scanning your QR code, so that's good. They're going to your site, and I think they should. I mean, there are other template engines out there, but I mean, that would probably be my first question, which is what made you decide to write Sempare in the first place?
So the motivation for the template engine came out of I wanted to have something that was like a scripting language, like PHP or something like that, or like I've been working with. I'm a polyglot, so I work in lots of different languages, like in
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Python, for example. There's some amazing things there as well.
Mm.
And the thing is, there just wasn't anything close to Delphi, which actually gave the same functionality. And also, the core emphasis was also on the separation of presentation, basically presentation and the functional business logic. Because, like, what when we used to natively, or say in the old days when we used to build PHP apps, you just have a script with, or Perl apps even. You just have one big script with doing absolutely everything. It's like
I have PTSD from Perl apps.
Yeah.
Don't even go there.
yeah, it's like you're busy fetching data, you're busy printing out, and it's essentially just a program that's running. And
I used to be a Unix system guy,
Yeah.
and in those days you had no option, but you sooner or later you ended up doing Perl.
Yeah.
And my description of how to write a Perl program is do this. It doesn't show up. Grab a nice heavy phone, drop it on the keyboard, and that's it. It's like ChatGPT for Perl. You're guaranteed to have accidentally written a really good Perl program. I don't know what it will do, but that's what Perl is. It's just like someone leant on the keyboard and went,
either that, or you just made the more amazing regular expression for evaluating your email address.
regex as well. Yes, I know. It's just one of those things. I mean, what would, if someone was out there going, oh, there's moustache and there's this and there's that and that, what would make someone choose Sempare over another kind of library or template engine, I suppose is the best way of calling it?
Okay, so I'm going to blow my own horn here. I think it's probably the most feature-rich template engine out there at the moment. The thing is, like, because of the things that I've been exposed to, I wanted all the toys, and like, the thing is, like, I wanted something that was very capable in terms of being not only centered around web, or it needed to be able to be, like, with all the demos that are just presented, it needs to be flexible enough to have lots of different use cases and be subtle, subtle, to do whatever needs doing, because most of the computing is all about munging data at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
with another way of munging it.
well, your demo is very comprehensive, and we were both chatting behind the scenes about T-frame stand from Andrea Magni, and saying how it's good. There's a couple of things you tweak, but generally it's really good. And I like the invoice demo and all the rest of it. You know your stuff. And anybody that's watching, if you scan that see, I can point to it now. 4 days in, I've finally got to the point of knowing which hand I point in the right direction. But if you scan that QR code, you'll go directly to Conrad's website and to GitHub. He said he's still working on his website. So I looked at it and went, yeah, okay, I won't put a link up for that, because it just literally says, hi, I'm Conrad. That's it.
Yeah, the problem is I'm rubbish at doing that sort of thing. So I'd rather let people contact me.
But as the comments said, you are an ace programmer. I mean, really, you demonstrated how powerful Rad Studio is. You demonstrated the coolness of Delphi and the things you can do. Like I saw you had uses of interfaces and all sorts of things in your code. That I approached you early in the year and said, you know what? Do you want to become an MVP? Because I've seen what you've done. MVPs are the people that really do champion our products, but also make the best ability to demonstrate the functionality of it. And you definitely did, and people seem to like it from the comments as well. So we're actually running short of time. Would you believe? There you go. You were like, we'll just waffle on, but you seem to have done that. I mean, if I was to say one more thing, which is, if there was, what would you put into Sempare as a feature that it doesn't do now? Or are you going to come up with the perfect answer, which is, I don't need to, it's perfect?
That's a hard one. Wait, I have to look at my features list.
Oh,
No, I've got issues. Actually, no. So actually, here's one that is currently pending. So, which I think is quite a neat one. So I want to support native code generation based on a template. So it's actually about that. That's about how to get the most bleeding edge out of your template. So you start with your template, which is purely okay. I've basically you essentially start off with doing a prototype.
Yeah.
And then you can actually say, let's code gen as like a post-process task, which actually generates that into something that really just says, here's native for loops, here's just the raw data being output to a stream. And then it's I think it's more or less feature complete. There might be other cosmetic things around validation that I want to do as well, but
as I said to someone yesterday, I forget who it was, a computer program is like a great work of art. You never finish it, you just abandon it. And that's the fact that there's always something you could do, It's like DIY, except in my case, I just go, do you know what? It's good enough, I'll leave it.
Yeah. So my first user was from China. My first user and paying customer was from China.
That's excellent.
And his first issue was that he raised was just, wow, this is great.
Well, if that's the issues you get, then you're doing good.
Yeah. Anyways, I was going to just say, it has been a little bit of organic growth in terms of I've tried to slot things into be backward compatible. I did try to support XE4 plus or XE4 and above. I don't test all of those platforms actively, but I do try to.
Well, that's what users every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got all kinds of things to try and support that. But anyway, let's
brilliant. Well, look, Conrad, we're out of time, but thank you. We've met in person before, and I'm sure we'll meet again somewhere else because that's the nature of these things. But you are a star. You're an excellent coder, and anybody that understands Delphi and is a coder can see the quality of your code and the rest of it. Anybody that wants to, just go to there and scan that repo. But for now, thanks a lot.
No worries. Great. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.